I was requested by a couple of you to make a video on how I extracted the sounds from Xtractpler and put it on the Xtractpler SE module. So what basically I did, it was to go and download the Xtractpler, which is a tool that you can certainly quickly find here. It's Mac and Windows, and it seems that it's coming from Linux as well. I don't know. So basically what it does is send a couple of MIDI notes through the system to any VST. I mean, this is whatever you have, right, that is reachable from MIDI, and it generates the sounds, and because of that you can capture them, right, and generate the samples that you need. And the process is it seems to be I mean, very straightforward. So here, for instance, we can see on the getting start what you need. Install the software score, and then prepare VSTs. There is another thing that you have to put if you are on Mac. Configure your system output and input, sorry, and then prepare the VST to listen on that MIDI channel, MIDI device, and also to point out the output to the same audio that you are setting here. I will show the process, by the way, but at least you have this information here. And by the way, so you can grab whatever you need, and there is a coupon so far. I mean, well, I'm in Canada, so but I guess this there is a 20 or I guess 15 or 20% discount if you apply a coupon code. I guess that coupon code is let's see if it's still working. Drummer. Oh yeah, you have it. So it's a cheap option, definitely. I mean, if you use this code, it seems to be still valid. So yeah, why not, right? So okay, so what I did, as mentioned, so I have my Xtractpler 2 version here. I just loaded the basic one, and I have here the Xtractpler. So let's just install it. So just grab in there. Okay, boom, it's done. The other thing that I want to show you, I already have the installation of the Sunflower, which offers you a way to route whatever sound that you want to capture in your system. I know that there are other different ways. I also have this PowerSoft audio device, but it's a paid version that came with another software that I have installed for recording videos and so on. And there are other Chrome extensions that probably they may work. And I also have the machine, the MQ3 native instrument device, that I know that I could eventually wrote it in a way to recapture that, but it's more complex. So why, right? That doesn't have any sense. So just use this one, which is a free tool that you can download. I guess if you put Sunflower, yeah. So there you go for Mac. You can take it from here, but this is not the one. Honestly, this should be from here. Yeah, this is the one. And where is the I guess it's this one. Yeah, so Sunflower. Okay, basically it creates a couple of audio devices as mentioned, and you can route your audio file, your audio output in your system. That's what we need, right? So when that is done, I mean, you don't need to put the output on this one. Which is important is to have the input set on whatever device you want to use. I mean, this one audio device or Sunflower. So whatever the one. Which is important is when you are in EZDrummer to set the audio MIDI. So here I have Sunflower on channel 2, but I could choose the other ones. And then in the MIDI device, I have, this is the internal MIDI device that comes with macOS. So no need to change it. I mean, I'm not triggering EZDrummer with other devices, right? I have also the complete control native instrument keyboard here. So in this case, we are supposed to trigger in the EZDrummer or any VST from the internal bus, in this case from the MIDI device that we are going to put as well in Xtractpler. So moving into that application, so here we have, remember, audio device. So the output device is Sunflower, 2 channels, and this is the MIDI device, which is the MIDI one that I mentioned. Okay, so let's jump into it and see how it goes. So remember again, just to make sure that you are pointing the right devices in both in your system, input as a Sunflower, in the output device in EZDrummer or your VCT Sunflower, MIDI device, in this case is the bass, the MacBook bass, and let's just go there. So by the way, when you click, well, you have help here, it goes into this documentation folder just in case if you need it. All right, then you can click this green button here to bring again the configuration kind of window. So from here again, just double checking, I have my MIDI device. I can put any channel. Remember that EZDrummer is put in any channel, in the MIDI channel. The output folder is where I just want to put all the files. Let's see, Xtractpler output. The other thing is this configuration is stored here, but you can change it, right? So let's just this is the file that comes with it already, and is set for the EZDrummer, right? It's just a template that it has been provided so far, so you don't have to change pretty much anything, right? A couple of things to note here is that, okay, this is the kick, right? This is the sample name, so you can list, you can add, remove, whatever, all the sounds or samples or things that you are going to capture. It doesn't matter if it is a drum kit, it could be something else, right? It could be a synthesizers or whatever, it doesn't matter. The thing is that you have to put the MIDI note, and this one, as you can see, the 36 correspond to the kick. So if you go into EZDrummer, it's pretty simple to see it, because you go here, detail, you can see is the 36 or C1, whatever, and you can put the number. So when you have the number, you put the number in here, right? So it's very easy to understand that. If you have multiple notes, like the case of the snare, where you have the center, the rim shot, the sidekick, you can see from here the center is the 38, the snare rim is the 40, sidekick is the 37. Okay, so very easy to configure, not only EZDrummer, any other. If you have Contact, if you have AV Row, drum kits, if you have SSD, if you have Superior Drummer, okay, it's exactly the same thing. I mean, as far as you know the MIDI notes of each of this individual instrument, you put them here, right? Then we have the quantity of samples that we want to capture. So I don't know exactly. This seems to be something that is already configured in that way, just to keep the size of your entire kit, as well as, for instance, how much detail you do really you really need, right? Because, for instance, for the hi-hat, right, we have plenty of dynamic here, right? Not just the open close, but we have 5 different opening of the hi-hat, plus we have also plus the splash and the foot. So probably you don't need too much detail for the foot, right? Just a couple of samples just to grab some velocity or different sound depending on the velocity. So maybe that's the reason why it's a low value when you're comparing it with the hi-hat here, right? The close, the open, the bow, the edge, right? So keep that in mind. Duration. So I guess this, yeah, probably because the sound, well, the kick is probably less than this. I don't know, which you should try, right? Because let's say the sound from the cymbal definitely is longer than the one from the snare stick, right? So you don't want to have a long duration on something that doesn't take it, right? Because that will affect the estimated output, right? So, but at the same time, you want to keep a value that will guarantee to have the sound without any cutoff, right? So that is kind of a trade-off that you have to understand for your particular sound. I guess I did this with those values and really worked fine, so no need to change them, but just to keep in mind that you can change it, right? If you see that, for instance, the tom, I mean, the sound is more longer, or if you at the end, if you have experienced some cutoff, well, you may probably need to increase this value, right? Just keep that in mind. Then we have the max velocity and the minor one. I jumped this one to 10 because it doesn't make any sense to have it, I mean, at least for me, right, on minimal velocity on 1. You can certainly, you can put the value, I mean, you can go, right, you can play, like, for instance, the samples will be divided between this range. So if you have 15 samples, they will be equally distributed in this range. If you need more kind of, I didn't see any way to specify a curve. This is a evenly distribution, right? But let's say that if you want to achieve in the upper zone of the velocity more detail, you may certainly add another line and call it tom 5 high zone or whatever, and just limited the maximum value to let's say, for instance, I don't know, if you want more detail, you can put like this, right? So you will have 15 samples in between this range on top of whatever you already have. So that's kind of the thing, right? So now, one important thing that you will note, this, it will take longer, right? It takes a time. The one that I did, it took like more than an hour. I would say an hour 15 minutes. I guess, which is reasonable considering that it's triggering each single node on each individual instrument at different velocity values. So, and when you see here the duration in seconds, I guess this is in seconds, by the way. Yeah, this will take a while, right? So for the purpose of this video, I'm not spending an hour or so on this one. So what I did is, just for the purpose of this, is just to grab a couple of, let's see, Let's just grab a test. Okay, this one, test. Okay, where we are capturing just the kick and the snare. Okay, and just for the purpose of this, and I will reduce this instead of 20, I will put just 15. And by the way, yeah, this is tricky because if you don't click this arrow, this check mark here, it doesn't take the change here, right? So that's one thing. And let's just put 10, right? Let's just put 10, okay? And you validate that. So then you have it. And so important, guys, is apply changes. If you don't apply changes, it doesn't save anything here on this screen here, so it won't work, right? So apply changes. So now we have the configuration file, that one, right, that we save it, and this is the output folder. So from here it just generates samples, and here you see that it's sending a MIDI note and it's triggering the kick, right? And on those velocities, it's distributing that in that range, right? Taking those samples. So let's just wait until it's done. And in the meanwhile, we can certainly open this. Let's see. Sharper, okay. All right. So there we have it. Capture is completed, and you can see that it has created a couple of, or in this case, two different WAV files, right? From EasyDrummer. So, however, this is not yet done, right? So we need to separate them in a way to have the multi-velocity samples. So the next step to do when this is complete, the capture is complete, is just to click Trim and Optimize. And when you do that, it does kind of a conversion in there, I don't know, but remove the previous file, and at the end, let's see, it convert those samples, it create this folder for the kick, the one for the snare center, and so on. And then you have here the list of samples, individual samples. So you can click on them individually. So this, each of them contains a different velocity, right? So, and this is the actual sample that you have to put in your SD card of your module. Okay, so let's jump into the last step in order to put this in the Xtractpler. So the next step is to grab your SD card from the Xtractpler, which is in this case this one. Okay, and I just I did a complete capture the other day of the entire kit. So you can see here we have all of them, bunch of them, right? So all the dynamics from the hi-hats, the open, as well as all the toms, right? So what we want to do is to grab this folder as it is, and you will put it inside the samples. So it's taking pretty much 80 megabytes. Okay, so we have all the samples in there. Okay, and now is the time to go with this and put it in your model and start the Alesis editor and work from there. The final step, guys. So what I'm trying to do right now is to use the Alesis strike editor and put those sounds into the Alesis module. So the last step is, of course, to connect via USB to your MacBook in this case. And we know that in the Alesis we already have copied all the samples captured by Xtractpler. So we have all of them in there. So what we need right now is to use the Alesis Strike Pro editor, right? And we know that in user instruments and we have the user samples in there, so we should go into the basic one, right? So there you have all your samples, right? And what we want to do is, for instance, I would just grab, let's say, the snare center just for the purpose of this, right? So what you have to do is to create a new instrument. So you have to go into the instrument editor, right? Instead of the kit editor, in the instrument editor, right? And from there, you should say new. And that's gonna happen. You have to select, in this case, is the snare. So I will put it like single, okay. And it just start adding those samples into it, right? So we grab all of them if you want to use all of them, right? Because maybe you don't want to use all of them, maybe you want to use a couple of them, right? Okay, so let's check the sample. You can hear the sound. Okay, so we have different velocities, right? Okay, so what you want to do is to grab all of them, right? So to select all of them, and once that is done, you should use the auto map, right? Using the auto map, it will establish the velocity range. So you are doing this, and it creates all the layers and taking the sounds between those 10 ranges, as you can see, right? When you have done, you have to save this one, right? So you have to, and it's saying, okay, this is taking 2 megabytes. You can keep all the things. In this case, the snare is all the files that I capture are in mono, so they are center positioning. So let's say for the snare is okay, so you don't have to alter the panning, right? But if it's not the case, let's say for the hi-hat, the cymbals, as well as the tom, you may want to change the panning, okay? Just to make sure that you are putting the sound in the right place, right? Okay, so when that is done, you should save the instrument, save as, and let's just put it in the acoustic, acoustic instrument, and let's just name it, this is the snare EC drum, EC, okay? Let's just put that, save. So we have the instrument already in there, okay? So when that is done, you can create your kit from here if that's what you want to do, right? Or you can certainly do it in here, okay? So for instance, I have this kit. So when you press the let's say the voice, and I have my, let's just say the snare. So let's just, okay, so probably best place is to put it in there. All right, so now when I click user, in the snare head. So from acoustic, right, we want to find the snare. I guess we call it the snare EC. You see, it's in there. So when you click that, that is the sound that is loaded right now in the kit, and you have it. This is the sound that you will hear. Unfortunately, I don't have any speaker here, it's just the headphones, so unfortunately you cannot see the sound coming from there, but that's it. I mean, that's the process. So you can double check it here. Let's just load the user kit, this one, 01, okay, and we know the snare. Okay, that's the one that is in there, but I don't want that, right? We wanted to change it. I don't know how to change it. I never did it that from here, but let's just take this is the one that we want, and I guess this is dropping. Let's see if I can drop it there. Yeah, there you go. So snare, that's the one that we have created so far, and that's the way that is working. And that's it.